We have been learning from Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, for a couple of years in a systematic way. Also, we cover Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran. Bhagavad Gita is the words of Shree Krishna, whom we regard as the Supreme Person, the Supreme Personality, the God Himself, because God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. If God is omnipotent, why is it difficult to assume? Why is it difficult to accept that God can take a form? He can take a human form, He can take any form which He wishes to do, because we call Him omnipotent. So I have no hesitation and doubt that the speaker of Bhagavad Gita is God Himself, Sri Krishna. And in so many verses of Bhagavad Gita, this becomes very, very clear. Today we shall be learning from chapter 15, which is called the Purushottam Yoga. The Yoga. Yoga means union with God. So this chapter talks about union with God through the realization of the Supreme Personality. Means how to understand that the Supreme Personality is God Himself, is Sri Krishna. There are three personalities that we come across in the world: Purush, Mahapurush, and Param Purush. We, the men, women and all, are Purush. We are ordinary mortals, ordinary human beings. We are under the influence of Maya, which is the material energy of God. Why we are under the influence of Maya, the material energy? Because we have all the material afflictions: Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mad, Moh, Matsar, Rag, Dves, Irshya, lust, greed, anger, jealousy, envy, attachment, hatred, etc. Because we are working under these different sets of mindset, different sets of mood, our situation keeps changing. These are all parts of material energy of God. Material energy of God means everything that is not spiritual. So what is spiritual in the world that we live? The only element which is spiritual is our soul, which is ensconced in the ethereal heart of our body. The rest of it is all the part of material energy. For example, the body is made up of 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air and space. These are all parts of material energy. But this is the physical body, the gross body. There is the subtle body also within us, which is made up of 18 elements: 5 life air, which is 5 pran, 5 jnanendriya, the 5 knowledge senses, 5 karmendriya, the 5 action senses, man, buddhi and ahankar, mind, intellect and ego. These 18 elements are called the subtle body. So within us we have a gross body, we have a subtle body, and we have a causal body, which is called vasnatmak sharir or karan sharir. What is the karan sharir? Karan sharir means we have had a past. We have had an eternal existence, and in many, many births we have accumulated karma, and that stock of karma is called sanchit karma, cumulative karma, and that constitutes our karan sharir, the cumulative karma. So just to repeat, we have a gross body, a sthul sharir, we have a sukshma sharir, subtle body, and we have a karan sharir, which is the causal body. This is the background. Now let us go back to the topic, which is what we want to learn. In the 15th chapter, which is the Purushottam Yoga, in shloka numbers 12, 13 and 14, Shree Krishna talks about his Brahma form. That means his form which is not spiritual, which is spiritual but not visible, not perceptible. That form is called Brahma. So the Brahma form of the Lord is the one which does not have a name, which does not have a form, which does not have a place, which does not have acts, but all the power is there in that form in a latent way. That means the Lord in the latent form, or the Lord in the latent way, is there in every atom of the universe. Now this form of the Lord, or this form of God, is called Brahma. It's written as Brahman. So this is the formless God. This is what Sri Krishna is talking about in verse numbers 12, 13 and 14. Verse number 12. Yada āditya-gataṁ tejo jagad bhāsayate khilam chandramasi yach chāgnau tejo viddhi māmakam. He's talking about the brilliance of sun, the shine of the moon. He says, these are all my energy, but in the spiritual abode where the soul enters upon God realization, it is self-effulgent. There is no need for an external sun or moon. And in the material realm, the brilliance of the sun, the shine of the moon that we see is God himself in his formless aspect. So the point that he is there in every atom is spoken about in this verse. In the next verse, which is verse 13, Sri Krishna says, āviśhya bhūtāni dhārayāmy aham ojasā puṣhṇāmi chauṣhadhīḥ sarvāḥ somo bhūtvā rasātmakaḥ. He is saying that I permeate the entire universe and I enter every particle and provide the energy. So the energy which is there in every form of the manifestations in the nature is energized by God. That energy is called ojasā. āviśhya bhūtāni dhārayāmy aham ojasā. And in that verse he also says that I become the moon, and with the moon shine I provide the juice in the plants and the vegetables and the fruits. So again, this form of Sri Krishna is the formless one. That means he is there in every atom, but his name, form, acts, everything is not visible, not perceptible. So this is the Brahma aspect of the Lord. Now the third verse, verse number 14, aham vaishvanaro bhūtvā pranīnām dehamāśritah prānāpān samayuktah pachāmi yanyam chaturvidham. Here Sri Krishna says that I am the digestive fire in your body, in your stomach, called Vaishvana. So we have this fire in the belly, which is God himself, and his energy called Vaishvana is the one which is digesting the 4 types of food which we eat, which we consume. Why the 4 types of food? Because the food can be categorized in one of these 4 categories. There are only 4 categories. Bhojya or bhakshya, the food which can be chewed or masticated. Peya, the food which can be swallowed. Lehya, the food that can be licked, and choṣhya, the food that can be sucked. For example, if we are eating chapati or roti, we can only chew and eat it. There is no other way to consume this. If we are drinking milk, it has to be swallowed. There is no other way to consume it. Then there is this third type called chauṣhadhīḥ, which can only be sucked, like the sugar cane. We cannot consume it in any other way. And the fourth type, the lehya, for example, the honey or the chutney, which can only be licked. So these are the four types of food. Shree Krishna says, with the incoming life air and the outgoing life air, prana and apan, my digestive fire, my energy Vaishwanar is the one which digests the food. Again, Sri Krishna is talking about the Brahma form, the invisible form of the Lord, which is formless aspect of God, which is permeating every human being. So, these three verses of Bhagavad Gita talk about the Brahma form. Now look into verse number 15. Verse number 15 is Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritirgyan apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda videva chaham. Sri Krishna is saying that I am the remembrance, I am the forgetfulness, I am the knowledge, I am the author of the Vedas, I am the one who is to be known by the Vedas, and I am the one who knows the Vedas completely. So those who consider Vedas as something very unique, they are to be advised that Sri Krishna is the one who is dominant on the Vedas. So here, apart from this, Sri Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart. So this aspect of God where he says, I am seated in your heart, O Arjun, is called the Paramatma form. Means there is the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, the form of Vishnu from whose navel Brahmaji was created. And then from Brahmaji, the entire living beings have emanated through the Manas Putras and later through Manuji Maharaj and Shatrupaji. So all the living beings have the form of Vishnu in their hearts, and that form is called Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the four-armed Vishnu. And this is known as the Paramatma form. So what does the God do in the Paramatma form? He has a name, he has a form, and he is seated in the heart, and he is noting down every thought which the living being is contemplating. And in the next verse also he talks about the Paramatma form, Uttama Purus Tvanyaha Paramatmeti Udahritah Yo Lokatraya Māviśhya Vibhartabhyaya Ishvaraha. So 3 shlokas talked about the Brahma form and 2 shlokas talked about the Paramatma form. And in the shloka number 18 and 19, Yasmat aksharo titoham akshāradapi chottamaha ato ashmi loke vede cha prathitaha puruṣottama. And the 19th verse, Yo mameva sammudho janati puruṣottamam sa sarvavid bhajate mam sarvabhavena bharata. In these 2 shlokas, Sri Krishna is telling, I spoke about the Brahma form, the formless one of mine. I talked about the Paramatma form of mine. And now I am saying that apart from these 2 forms, there is even a highest form, and that is me. That is the Puruṣottam, the Supreme Personality. So Sri Krishna allays all ambiguities and doubts by declaring that he is Puruṣottam, he is the Supreme Personality. And those who know this mystery, they know the highest knowledge, is what Sri Krishna says. yo mameva sammudho janati purushottamam. I found it very fascinating that in a space of 7 verses, Shree Krishna talks about all his 3 forms, which is what we have been reading in Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Shloka 11, which says, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan iti shabdete. Yach jnanam advyayam. So, the 3 forms were described in the Canto 1. Vadanti tat vidas tattvam ajnanam advyayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdete. All the sages and the experts have investigated and researched and come to the conclusion that God has 3 forms. Brahma form, where the energy is completely latent. Paramatma form, where God does have a name, God does have a form. God does note down the thoughts of every living being, but God does not enact any leelas, any pastimes. And the 3rd form, which is Bhagwan, God comes as Sri Ram, God comes as Shree Krishna, God appears in different forms and enacts various actions. So these are the 3 forms very magically described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, which we will conclude next week in our weekly sessions. And I thought this is worth sharing and hope you get benefited in your sadhana, because we all are realizing that we cannot deny God. We have to accept that God is there. Why not know Him? Because it is said that only when we know Him, we will get the answers of every question and we will acquire the contentment, the bliss and the peace. So see you in the next video. Take care.